The cause of the crash remains under investigation.
Well, the Army has begun replacing Confederate names on 9 of its posts. CBS's Jim Crisula reports on one of them.
Fort Lee in Petersburg, Virginia, is now Fort Gregg Adams. 94-year-old retired Lieutenant General Arthur Gregg was the Army's first black three-star officer.
I was just overwhelmed with pride and with joy. I hope it's going to be inspiring. In fact, I'm sure that it will be.
The late Lieutenant Colonel Charity Adams served during World War II and at the age of 25 was selected to command the first and only unit of predominantly black women deployed in Europe.
And checking Wall Street right now, the Dow is up 47 points. NASDAQ is down 35. This is CBS News.
Streamline how you hire with Indeed. Their powerful hiring platform makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates all in the same place. Visit Indeed.com/
WAUK 540 AM, Franklin's Choice for News Talk Radio. Streaming 24/7 at WAUKradio.com.
For Civic Media, I'm Jane Matnair. Here's what you need to know. A bill allowing advanced practice nurses to work independently is before the state legislature. The Wisconsin Nursing Association says with doctor shortages in some parts of Wisconsin, advanced practice nurses can help provide access to quality health care. Governor Evers' budget proposal includes some restrictions, including requiring advanced practice nurses to work with doctors 2 more years before becoming independent. Concerns over children's use of the new Snapchat My AI chatbot, which can hold a human-like conversation that can't be deleted. My AI uses ChatGPT to respond within seconds, but the information isn't always accurate. Privacy is also a concern because while the chats disappear after 1 day, Snapchat keeps the data. Officials say talk to your kids so they understand how to use it safely. I'm Jane Matnair. This is Civic Media News.
Direct from the Dairy State, it's Extra Sharp Weekends, a 3-hour block of Wisconsin-produced radio, Saturdays and Sundays from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m., featuring Raised in Wisco with Joel Clayfish and Danielle Fairman, The Cripescast with Charlie Behrens, and Under the Helmet with the Gravedigger, Gilbert Brown. Enjoyed by the slice or enjoy the whole darn block. Extra Sharp Weekends is radio so fresh, it squeaks. Listen in on the Civic Media Station or on the app.
The Shaw 101 FM, New Berlin's choice for News Talk Radio. Streaming 24/7 at WAUKradio.com.
Hey, this is Matt from Design Garden. Remember when the internet was new? Back then, you had to leave your house to start a business. Companies used to pay programmers bags of cash to get online. Now, small businesses can get online with a Facebook business page, or Squarespace, or Google My Business, or WordPress. But which tools should you use? Can you afford to go down the wrong path? Design Garden uses modern tools to build your website the right way. Find us online at design.garden. Again, that's design.garden.
Are you an experienced industrial painter, drywall finisher, or want to be? Do you want more than a job, but a high-paying career where your interests are well represented, ensuring a safe work environment? The International Union of Painters and Allied Trades of District Council 7 wants you. Bring your knowledge or ask about paid training. Learn more now. Call Tom Coyne, 262-488-4839, 262-488-4839, or go to the union's website, iupatdc7.com.
A progressive voice from Beaver Dam to Kenosha. WAUK 540 AM. Always.
It's great to be here to speak directly to the woke mob.
The liberals have basically made up this whole agenda that guacamole is made of avocados. It's not the truth.
Ticked off, tee off. This is it.
Scubbity boo boo. Scubbity doo. Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is Kristen Bry with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada, yada, yada. Hello, Wisconsin! So, after what happened in East Palestine, when you hear that there's a train derailment in Wisconsin, do you believe them when they say everything's fine?
No worries.
No worries.
It's all good.
844-967-2789. And I'm not trying to distrust of our officials. But it is a little weird when you see the pictures that came out of the train derailment that happened in Crawford County, of just train cars in the like floating in the Mississippi River,
Floating down the Mississippi River.
and it was not the same kind of chemicals that were in the train for East Palestine. There was not a big kaboom of a big fire, but it's still also raises the questions of where are we with all the like train regulation that everyone was calling for in February when that happened. And I guess that's the question. Do you trust that if you're living in Crawford County, which is, I think, where the derailment happened, is about 30 miles away from La Crosse, in DeSoto and Ferryville. But, for the people who are, and they're already experiencing flooding all week.
Yes, it's a mess.
And so it's been a mess over on the west side of Wisconsin. But I guess when you see something like this happen, do you trust that everything's okay when they say that you have nothing to worry about? 844-967-2789. And so if you did not see, no, it doesn't seem like anyone was injured.
I think 4 employees were hurt.
They were, yeah. So it says 4 members of the train, they received medical attention. Several train cars are in the Mississippi River and along its bluff. And at least what was on the train, it sounds like it was paint, lithium ion batteries, and oxygen tanks. And they're still not sure what caused the derailment. There's an investigation into it now. But the big takeaway is that residents have been told that they don't need to evacuate, and that it doesn't pose a risk to the river, which I also find, it's like, how is just,
I mean,
objects that are not, I feel like whatever stuff's in the water that's not supposed to be there, to say like, no, it's fine. It's like, what is it?
I mean, even paint. You don't want paint in your water if some of those containers broke open. And I know that they say that the batteries were contained, so that's not a problem. And again, as you said, I don't mean to cast aspersions on the officials and what they're saying, but with what has been happening, especially since what happened in East Palestine, it makes you twitchy.
Yeah, and I guess that's more of the thing of just with what happened there, and kind of the knee-jerk reaction to East Palestine was, after 3 days, you're like, you're fine to go back.
No worries.
No worries. And it doesn't, I don't know, and I'm not an expert, so it's like saying, what do I know as far as batteries and paint and if it actually causes an issue? But it does feel like when you see those pictures, it's very jarring to just see a train flipped over and in the water and be like, all right, well,
that's normal.
It's normal. But it is, I mean, it is interesting. In the Journal Sentinel's write-up of this was so far in 2023, talking about the frequency of train derailments. There was one other in Wisconsin on January 31st. And in 2022, Wisconsin had 11 derailments. And in 2021, there was 15. And across the U.S., derailments occurred last year, was about 1,173 and 1,099 the year before. But this is what's wild, because I do think the conversations around regulation can very much have died down.
Oh, it's crickets now.
It's crickets now. But I do have a couple, because I looked this morning out of curiosity of what's going on in East Palestine. But before we move on to that, in 1977, guess how many trains derailed?
Nationwide?
Nationwide.
1,500.
More.
2,500.
More.
3,500.
8,000. Isn't that wild? When we think about how outraged people are now that, the train derailments feel like they're happening a lot. Sometimes it happens at the expense of the environment or people getting hurt. But in 1977, 8,000 trains derailed. So it's been an improvement over the last
Oh, yay,
50 years.
Yay, us.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
Wow, I had no idea. And I'm embarrassed because I was alive then. Although I was in high school.
I'm not sure you were paying attention
I
to
don't
nationwide train
was
derailments.
concerned about train derailments, but that's just shocking.
We have a comment on the YouTube live stream, which you are welcome to watch if you are near your computer, if you'd like to see Jane and I. But Benjamin Zimmerman says, right after the news broke, the Navy made a mustering exercise titled Naval Station Great Lakes Train Derailment. The naval bases in North Chicago thought it was poor timing and inappropriate. I didn't hear about that.
I didn't either.
But thanks for the comment, Benjamin. But yeah, I guess I don't know. And maybe it really is nothing, but it felt like.
Well, I just think we're all so much more aware of it now because of what happened in East Palestine. And as you said, that's just kind of disappeared from the news. Although there is an article here on Fox News from just a couple of days ago, from the 26th, that Norfolk Southern CEO's Alan Shaw in March faced questions about the derailment, was asked a number of times if the company would compensate homeowners for their losses. He said he's committed to doing what's right for the community, but doesn't go into any specifics and any specifics about what they're going to do for these people.
So it's interesting because on the same day, April 26th, I saw an article from The Week saying East Palestine derailment will cost rail company $387 million. And so they said that and that figure is likely to increase. So the charge was announced as part of Norfolk Southern's first quarter financial report. While the company didn't go into specific details, Mark George, Norfolk Southern's chief financial officer, said in investor calls that the costs were related to site cleanup, community support, legal expenses, pending settlements. And speaking of pending settlements, another update about East Palestine. There's an Ohio inmate who's suing the company.
He's suing Norfolk Southern.
Yep. Ohio Penn inmate sues Norfolk Southern CEO over East Palestine derailment. An inmate who was sitting in a prison cell nearly 20 miles from East Palestine when a train hauling toxic chemicals went off the tracks is suing the chief executive of the railroad. I wonder how strong his case is.
Because it shook him?
Well, I also wonder if it's because they can't evacuate.
Oh, right.
Like if the inmates get sick, because it's not like they can leave the area.
Right.
Maybe there's a case there, which is, I had never even thought about that as far as being detained in an area that is polluted like that if you have a strong case. But yeah, it should be interesting to see if that actually goes somewhere. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the extent of the updates I saw. And so maybe we can get John Russell, who is from the same county and does a lot of independent reporting in Ohio. He's been on the show a couple times to talk about his on-the-ground reporting of East Palestine. And maybe we can get him back on the show to give us an update of what's been going on, because it's been, unless you seek it out, it certainly has not been in the news.
Well, and I guess because I run into trains here in Waukesha at least a couple of times a week, because they go right through, the edge of downtown. And I'm just so much more cognizant now of what potential ramifications could be if something happens. And granted, the trains that are moving through the area are moving relatively slowly, but the lack of concern, it seems to me, by the railroad companies themselves to update their own safety equipment and address this, they're just like, yeah, whatever.
Gotta make that money.
It'll go away.
It'll go away. It'll be fine.
People will forget.
But I guess that's maybe the point is, like, do you forget after something like the Ohio derailment? Is it not forefront of your mind when something like that happens in your backyard? Because that's certainly like I feel like a year ago, had I seen that, it would have not caught my eye the same way it did yesterday when I started seeing reports of the derailment that happened in Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah. And again, we have 2 big boxcars in the Mississippi River.
Mm-hmm. Well, all right. Well, speaking of environment.
Oh, this is kind of, yes.
So this happened Wednesday, so we're a little late to talking about it, but Ron Johnson has a tendency to say things that are controversial, and Wednesday was more of the same, where he, to summarize it, basically said, isn't climate change good for Wisconsin because it basically warms up our brutal winters? And the internet kind of had a field day. And I guess the question now is, beyond that, I think Mark Pocan's quote, he's like, I guess you could say if you get COVID, the benefit is you lose some weight.
Okay.
So, trying to find the silver lining out of a bad situation, you could maybe do that out of anything. But I guess my question to people listen to you is, what effects of climate change are you already feeling in Wisconsin? 844-967-2789. So that could be the floods that are happening on the Mississippi right now. It could be the lack of ice cover we had on the Great Lakes over the winter. Cranberry farmers, I know it's an issue. Farming in general is an issue. But beyond warmer winters, what is climate change doing in your own backyard? 844-967-2789. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Hey, this is Lindsay Kindred at 540 WAUK The Shaw. At Civic Media, we love our local communities and want to share your stories. Submit your local event and we'll let our listeners know. Email me, Lindsay Kindred, at info@civicmedia.us. That's info@civicmedia.us.
Embroidery Professionals Plus, how may I help you?
I've been tasked with getting some printed t-shirts for an event that is coming. Is that something that you do?
Absolutely. Did you know what kind of tee you wanted?
I do, but my question is, do you have any minimums?
Nope, we don't have minimums, and it sounded like it might qualify for a bulk order discount. To get started, email
Embroidery Professionals Plus has custom apparel specialists ready to supply your event with printed tees too. 2 Wisconsin locations in Deerfield and Eden. Embroidery Professionals Plus, apparel you love, service you crave. Oh, yeah, and home of the Wisconsin Tailgater hoodie.
You are never far away from your favorite radio station. We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app. And if you missed your favorite show or game, listen to a podcast of it anytime on the app or our website, civicmedia.us.
I love this song. I love nachos.
Loving everything? You might be buzzed.
You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Weather brought to you by Taqueria Miyagi, Waukesha's authentic Mexican food truck, which is now open and ready to serve you. Find us at 1610 Lincoln Avenue in the BP gas station parking lot, or call us at 262-278-6590.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. High of 62 this afternoon, under cloudy skies, northeasterly winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight, lows dip down to about 40. Scattered rain showers likely tomorrow, high of 52, cloudy. Cooler Sunday and Monday with highs in the middle 40s. Mixed precipitation both days. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 57 degrees.
WAUK 540 AM, New Berlin's choice for news talk radio. Streaming 24/7 at WAUKradio.com.
So warmer temperatures in Wisconsin in the short term feel good, but for you personally, have you seen climate change affect things in your life, whether it's winter sports or flooding or farming? And we ask because Ron Johnson thinks it's a good thing.
Yeah.
844-967-2789. Before we move on, Roger Frost added on the Facebook live stream a note about our last topic with how, I think this is talking about how there was 8,000 train derailments in 1977, and now we're ranging around 1,000 to 1,100 for the last couple of years. He said USA has about 28,000 fewer miles of railroads now than in 1990.
Wow.
So that could be a big reason beyond just regulation or deregulation of just there is less trains. There's less train tracks. But moving on to Ron Johnson. And let's play the clip of what he said, and then we'll go from there.
Take a listen.
Because of climate change, we're going to actually have a reduced risk of mortality overall in the United States. In terms of excess deaths, a warming globe is actually beneficial. In my own state, your study shows that we'd have a reduction in mortality of somewhere between 54 and 56 people per, I guess it's 100,000. Why wouldn't we take comfort in that?
What the work shows and the chart is that the effects of climate change are going to be very unequal. And absolutely, Wisconsin, Chicago, where I live, the reduction in cold days, the benefits from that will outweigh the damages from the hot days. But if you look more carefully at that, there's large swatches of the country where the damages will be much larger.
Well, that's your problem.
And there's so much here. So on one hand, I mean, it's like, because he also says, he's like, well, it's going to get really hot in Africa, but that's not our problem. And so beyond it just being a ethnocentric, like, statement as far as, well, as long as we're okay,
nothing to worry about.
Who gives a hoot?
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to start bringing back old colloquialism lingo because I can't swear on the air. So the other things that I can say that's just goofy, we're going to bring it back.
Like kerfuffle.
Like kerfuffle. Quibble. So it's kind of saying, because I've heard people make this argument of, when it gets so hot in the Sun Belt that you can't live there anymore, or when fresh water is basically like oil, where how like rare and precious it is, then we'll be great. We'll be in a great position. You're like, oh, I'm great. Like, good to know that other places have to be like apocalyptic, and then it will be good for Wisconsin, and that's when people will finally move back.
Well, and I find it interesting also that Senator Johnson isn't concerned at all about sea level rise, considering that he and his family have this compound now on the coast in Florida.
Seriously. And so beyond, these, the winters are better, people might move here because it's more temperate. Those are basically the only arguments I could find, and they're pretty superficial compared to the catastrophe that's going to be caused around the world and around the country. But it's also, there is no expert has agreed that there is not ramifications for Wisconsin. And so I'm asking you, what have you felt already in your time living in Wisconsin that you can feel the change? I guess good or bad, but
I would think hunters and any kind of outdoor sportsman more than anyone has seen what's been happening over the last couple of years.
Yeah,
because they're out in nature.
People are out in nature a lot. I would imagine farmers and how wet things are getting,
or dry.
I would certainly think cranberry farmers. Like I've heard cranberry farmers, as far as, part of the reason why Wisconsin is the largest manufacturer of cranberries is because of our climate. And so if things get warmer, and it's because of the cooler temperatures, and there's that window in the fall where it needs to be cold enough for the cranberries to be ripe, but before they actually freeze, so you lose the entire harvest. And in years where we have warmer and warmer falls, huge swaths of the product aren't actually ripe yet.
Right.
And it's just smaller yields, right? And so 844-967-2789, what are some of the effects or symptoms you've already seen in Wisconsin of climate change that maybe Ron Johnson should be aware of?
Well, I can share one thing.
Okay.
And I think I've mentioned this before, but I have a planter in our yard that keeps flowering now on the ground. So these are annuals. These are not perennials that are meant to make it through the winter. These are annuals that are supposed to die, and then you buy new ones. Well, now when they flower off and fall to the ground, they're coming back, which is great for my yard. But snapdragons aren't supposed to be able to survive through the winter. That's not good. And that also leads me to believe that other things and certain bugs and things are also surviving through the winter that shouldn't.
We should get, who's the bug expert we got?
PJ Leash.
We should get him back. Because I actually think I saw something that lantern bugs or
The lantern flies.
The lantern flies are going to come back with a vengeance.
Great.
So we should talk to him as far as if there's not enough things to be scared about to get PJ back to let us know about what we can expect for how buggy this summer is going to be.
What's going to kill us next?
Because, I mean, truly, because this winter was not that bad.
No, it wasn't.
We had the week around Christmas that was super cold. I would like it to be warmer than it is, although today is beautiful. But as far as killing things, this winter, I don't know how much this winter killed things. So, what does that mean for our summer?
You need a hard freeze. You need a hard freeze for some of these things.
So let us know. What are you already seeing in Wisconsin when it comes to climate change and things that it's changing, whether it's rain, floods, lack of freezing? 844-967-2789. We will take your calls and your texts when we come back. 844-96-PARTY. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
WAUK 540 AM, Brookfield's choice for news talk radio. Streaming 24/7 at WAUKradio.com.
CBS News brief. A new round of Russian missile and drone attacks in Ukraine has left around 20 dead. The UN's Matilda Bogner says civilian deaths amount to potential war crimes.
It's very clear that international humanitarian law, the rules of war, have been broken and that war crimes have taken place.
Could be stormy weather for a second day today in parts of the South. Tornadoes and hail hit parts of Florida. Doug Ross's mobile home in Brevard County was damaged.
I had a piece of somebody's carport just came slammed through the wall about 4 foot into the living room.
A key inflation index watched by the Fed is out. CBS's Jill Schlesinger says key measures of prices and wages remain high.
The PCE index was up 4.2% from a year ago, and that's actually down from the previous month when it was 5.1%.
A new Fed report just out calls for more banking regulation after the Silicon Valley Bank collapse. CBS News Brief. I'm Steve Kathan.
A progressive voice from Manitowoc to Janesville. WAUK 540 AM. Always streaming at WAUKradio.com.
For Civic Media News, I'm Terry Bell. Here's what you need to know. There's no word yet why a train derailed in southwest Wisconsin yesterday. 4 people were injured. As many as 20 cars left the tracks near DeSoto. Some of the cars were carrying paint, batteries, and oxygen containers. Governor Evers says he's been briefed. Local governments in Wisconsin could get 20% of all state sales tax income in the future. That's under a new shared revenue plan unveiled by legislative Republicans. Representative Tony Kurtz.
So if the state does well, our locals are going to do well. And I think that's a key point.
Details are expected next week. In sports, Iowa linebacker Lucas Van Ness is the Green Bay Packers' first pick in the NFL draft. The Brewers host the Angels tonight. I'm Terry Bell, and this is Civic Media News.
Hey everybody, how we doing? I'm Charlie Barons, inviting you to join me Saturdays and/or Sundays at noon. It's a horse apiece, whatever you decide. We're doing the Cripes Cast, where we talk to people for and/or from the Midwest, and it's more fun than a 6-pack of Jolly Good. Okay, the pride of Random Lake, that Jolly Good is. Anyway, it's on your Civic Media station and the Civic Media app. And do me a favor, tell your folks I says hi. Okay, real good.
Max Inc. Radio with Dennis Graham from Rockonson.
Appreciate all the support of Mad Radio 92.7. And by the way, a tip of the hat to Civic Media. That was a great article in the Cap Times by Paul Fanlin. You guys got a great model that you're growing around the state, local interest with radio stations throughout these different markets. And a tip of the hat, and you're focusing on local music, and nobody's doing it. So great job.
Listen to Max Inc. Radio Saturday night, 6 to midnight on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Hey there, fellow working class heroes. I'm Rick Smith, host of The Rick Smith Show, and we are now on the air in Waukesha, live weeknights 8 to 10 p.m. right here on WAUK 540 AM, 101 FM, The Shaw. Turn on, tune in, and help us rebuild the American dream. Check out our website at thericksmithshow.com. The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk. Weeknights 8 to 10 p.m. right here on WAUK 540 AM, 101 FM, The Shaw.
What grows in the forest? Our imagination and our family bonds. The forest is closer than you think. Find a forest near you at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
In terms of global health, in terms of excess death, we're actually in a better position to prevent death by having the climate increase in temperature a little bit, right?
Senator, I'm not familiar with that study. What I am familiar with is my study. Your characterization of it is incorrect.
Well, your study is very favorable to my state. Our mortality declines by 54 per 100,000.
Wisconsin will benefit in terms of mortality. There are 49 other states in the United States. Many of them will suffer. Many of them will suffer more than Wisconsin will gain. And that is the nature of climate change. It's very unequal.
According to your study, you're concerned if you're in the really hot region of Africa, but in terms of the United States and most of Europe, we're in pretty good shape. We're all blue. We have reduced risk of death.
Yes, if you look carefully at the top of that figure, a large section of the country is not blue. Those are the areas where some of your colleagues represent people, and those people are going to face increased risk of mortality.
What I can't get over, welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. She is Jane Madnair, and we are discussing partially the comments that Ron Johnson, our senior senator, had on Wednesday about a climate change report, and basically his indignant position of, well, Wisconsin looks like it's going to be fine, so why should I care?
We're good. We're all good.
And you know what this is, it's funny because our friend Joe McClear left a funny comment on the Facebook live stream. Evergreen headline, quote, U.S. Senator Ron Johnson said, insert statement on issue here, experts disagree. Because that literally is the headline from Milwaukee Journal Sentinel covering this story, saying Ron Johnson said climate change could be good for Wisconsin. Experts disagree. And one of the things they point out in their write-up about this is that the article itself, I mean, the study itself is only looking at deaths from
heat and cold.
Heat and cold.
Right.
And so what it doesn't look at is the fact that it doesn't account deaths from weather events. So like extreme rainfall, flooding, hurricanes. So if you think about what did the death toll end up being in Florida last year with the massive
the hurricanes?
Yeah, it was like 50, 60, 70 people.
Oh, and some of those communities are never
gone.
Gonna come back.
And so, the findings are basically, and like it doesn't take in account cases of humidity, and there's all these other things beyond just like freezing to death or heat stroke,
right,
that you can die from when it comes to weather events, climate change events. And so even the point that he's trying to make is it's not the full picture. But one of the other things that in this article that I thought was interesting is your neighbor most likely cares about climate change more than you think they do. So it says as much as 90% of Americans underestimate how much people care about climate change.
Oh, interesting.
And so this was a study published last year from the journal Nature Communications. And so in the misperception is common across all states demographics, political parties. And so in Wisconsin, 62% of people worry about climate change. That's like, again, in this state, that's a pretty high majority. And so 62% worry about climate change in Wisconsin and support policies to address it. But they believe they're in the minority, thinking that far less people share their concerns. And this is true in every county of the state. I find that to be fascinating, that so many of us individually, if you ask, worry, care, support changes, and yet our assumption about our neighbor is, well, they probably don't care as much. And so the ramifications of that is that it keeps people from speaking out. And so maybe it's just like, I'm just going to keep the peace, and not, if they don't care about like climate change, I'll just kind of keep it to myself. But I thought that was fascinating as far as our misconceptions about how many people actually are worried about this and want the people in charge to do something.
844-967-2789. That's 844-96-PARTY. You can call and or text from the 608. Ron Johnson has never listened to expert advice on anything. Whatever he claims, the opposite is likely true. Just because we're not going to be underwater like Florida doesn't mean we won't be impacted. Isn't the number one headline on the hourly local news that the towns along the Mississippi and Grant County are underwater right now? And we have lithium-ion batteries on this train that just derailed, being washed into the river. Come on.
Totally. I mean, it's ironic that those, like he said this literally as that part of the state
is drowning. 844-967-2789-920. I'm really worried about this summer because only 7% of the Great Lakes were covered in ice, which is significantly below the 35 to 40% ice cover that is considered normal.
And like that they wrote that up a couple times as far as, when we were, again, in the moment when it's not bitterly cold, it does feel good. I'm not going to say that it doesn't.
And I don't think anybody's going to disagree. Gosh, I wish it was 30 below longer.
Like when January was as mild as it was, it felt good. But there's ramifications of that. And exactly as the last texter said, the ramifications are huge as far as beyond, again, the personal gain of cold weather sports, but it causes conditions that disrupt our ecosystems. And so, the ice tempers waves. So when there's low ice cover, waves can be larger, leading to lakeshore flooding and erosion. More water also evaporates off the lake when there's low ice, which can cause dangerous lake effect snowstorms, which we saw in Buffalo, New York last year.
That was a nightmare.
Ice acts as a shield, protecting eggs that are incubating after fish like whitefish, walleye spawn near the nearshore areas. And when ice isn't there, strong winds and waves stir up the sediment, decreasing the number of fish that hatch in the spring. So again, fishermen, there's going to be less fish. And so there's all these different things. And Wisconsin is wetter. We're having more extreme rain events. And so that is affecting, again, flooding, but also farmers. Rainfall's already increased 17% on average across Wisconsin.
Wow.
That's a big number.
That is a big number.
And southern Wisconsin is seeing the biggest increases in rainfall, and it's putting infrastructures like roads, bridges, stormwater structures at risk. And so the short-term gain of I put my winter jacket away sooner, I get it. I like it too. But there are so many other things that are way worse that we should be worried about in this state. So even like his argument, well, this is good for our state. It's like, no, it's not.
844-967-2789, 844-96-PARTY. Ted from Manitowoc joining us. Hey, Ted, what do you want to say?
Yes, NASAGovernment.com has been recording since 1880 that the Celsius temperature went up 0.5%.
Okay.
So What do they say the temperature has risen to? How much has it gone up in the last 100 years? I'm just curious.
I do not know that off the top of my head, Ted. What was the website?
NASA
NASA, like NASA as in like the NASA?
.gov.
All right. So wait, so do you think that climate change is a good thing or a bad thing for Wisconsin?
Well, is it even going on? If it went up 0.5% since 1880, since he started recording,
But Ted,
is that significant?
But haven't you seen?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out that it's half a degree Celsius. It went up since 1880, in time, in 1,000 years, I suppose. You know what I mean?
So you're saying that you don't think it's actually happening?
It is. It's at what rate? It's at 0.5% since 1880.
So you think we can
Half
go
a
another?
Celsius.
We can go another 1,000 years and everything is going to be fine.
Depending, we're doing studies right now in the next 50 years to see if it goes up or down, because the climate's actually been changing since 2,000 years. It varies. It goes up and down.
Well, and the thing is, I will say this. I think there's something as far as people saying, the climate has always changed for the Earth, but humans have not always inhabited the Earth. Let's just remember that we are guests here, and this place far predates our species and our ability to live here. And so I think what we're trying to say is continuing to try to keep a planet where we are comfortable and can survive here, because I think the Earth is going to be here whether or not we are. And that's kind of what it always comes back to, is like, it's not so much the Earth, and the Earth obviously continues to change and evolve and is alive, but like, how many of us are going to be here to be able to actually like inhabit it? But thanks so much for the call, Ted. And I do stand corrected as far as here in Southeast Wisconsin, our winter was not very hard, but that it discredits. We just got corrected by Michael on the YouTube live stream. I live near the Twin Cities. This winter was not easy this year. This winter was the second snowiest winter we had on record. We also went nearly 6 months without seeing 50 degrees.
Well, and I was thinking about this over the break.
So thank you for the correction, Michael.
And well, this is just indicative that different things happen all over the country, and we spoke to someone at the Birkebeiner this year. These were probably the best conditions they've seen at the Berkey.
They almost thought there was going to be too much snow.
But in prior years, it was like, well, we're going to have to do something about this or shorten the course or something, because there just isn't any snow.
Yeah. And so sometimes Ron Johnson makes himself an easy target. And so it becomes very easy to poke at the things that he says. But I do think it's a reminder and an opportunity for us to talk about, beyond milder winters, some of the actual effects that are going to happen. And so we'll continue to take your texts and calls if you have anecdotes to share as far as things that you've been seeing. But surprise, surprise, we also have more Brewers tickets to give away.
We do.
And so if you have no plans for tonight,
it is for tonight.
It's for tonight. It's for tonight at 7:10 at American Family Field. And this is on behalf of our flagship stations, WISS, WRCE in Richland Center. But we are giving away two sets of 2 tickets tonight. So we are going to a break soon. So get your fingers ready. But if you have a babysitter, if you have no kids, if you can make spontaneous plans, we would love to hear from you. We would love to give you these tickets. So give us a call, 844-967-2789. We're not going to ask you a trivia question.
No, there's no test.
There's no test. We just want to give these tickets to you. We may bring you on the air, so if you're shy, beware. But yeah, so we I guess I said this yesterday at the end of the show, but apparently 2 of the Los Angeles Angels players are 2 of the best players in baseball right now.
Oh, really?
Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani.
All right.
Luke Mathers had to tell me that. But so it should be a good game. It should be, if you really are a big fan of baseball, of getting a chance to see those 2 play.
And what a beautiful night to hang around and tailgate.
Seriously.
It's going to be
Perfect.
So yeah, so we're doing the first giveaway of the first 2 tickets right now. So give us a call, 844-967-2789. Jane will talk to you. She'll get you your information. We may even bring you back when we come back from the break. But and if you don't get to go to the game tonight, or you already have plans, you can always listen to it on Civic Media's flagship Brew Crew station, WISS, Oshkosh Air Support, as well as WRCE News from the center in Richland Center. So we want to hear from you. We want to give you tickets. 844-967-2789. And when we come back, we'll talk to the winner and we'll do the weekly headline quiz. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Tens of thousands of Wisconsinites live with a debilitating chronic disease called lupus. Build awareness and raise funds by challenging your friends and family to register today for the 21st annual Walk to End Lupus Now Milwaukee. The walk will take place on the morning of May 13th at beautiful Hoyt Park in Wauwatosa. Adult registration is just $30 and children under 15 are $20. Prices will increase after May 10th, so make sure you sign up now. To pre-register, go to lupuswi.org or call 414-443-6400.
Hey, this is Matt from Design Garden. Remember when the internet was new? Back then, you had to leave your house to start a business. Companies used to pay programmers bags of cash to get online. Now, small businesses can get online with a Facebook business page, or Squarespace, or Google My Business, or WordPress. But which tools should you use? Can you afford to go down the wrong path? Design Garden uses modern tools to build your website the right way. Find us online at design.garden. Again, that's design.garden.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone. Done. By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Weather brought to you by Taqueria Miyagi, Waukesha's authentic Mexican food truck, which is now open and ready to serve you. Find us at 1610 Lincoln Avenue in the BP gas station parking lot, or call us at 262-278-6590.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Overcast this afternoon with highs around 62. Northeasterly winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Partly cloudy tonight, lows around 40. Scattered rain showers likely tomorrow, high of 52. Overcast skies. Temperatures well below average Sunday and Monday with highs in the middle 40s. Mixed precip possible both days. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 57 degrees.
The Shaw 101 FM, your fix for progressive talk. From Butler to Wind Lake. Always streaming at WAUKradio.com.
I came to test. I'm gonna pass 'cause I'm the best. I'm rocking this from east to west.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bright. She is Jane Madnair. What were we just listening
That
to,
is
Jane?
Rock This Test by the Centennial Arts Academy 5th graders.
Nice.
Thanks.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Thank you, my fine gems.
I love kids singing. It was just like loud talking on beat. All right. Well, do we have a winner of the Brewers tickets?
We do. Adam is joining us on the phone from the 920. Hey, Adam, how you doing?
Good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So where are you calling us from?
Oconto.
Oconto. Nice. So that's a little bit of a drive. But is this your first game of the season?
Yes.
Well, I hope you have a good time.
The weather is going to be perfect, Adam. It should just be a beautiful, beautiful night.
Who are you going to invite to come with you?
I'm probably going to bring my son.
Nice.
All right.
But very fun father-son night, Adam. Well, congratulations, and thank you for listening, and thank you for calling.
Yep, thank you.
Have fun. Take a picture. Don't forget to take a picture and tag
us,
Civic Media and As Goes Wisconsin on social media. Well, very fun. Well, we have another set of tickets to give away later in today's show, which we will definitely do probably. I'm feeling the second half of the second hour. We also have some guests coming up in the next hour. We have Craig Dickman, who is the managing director of Titletown Tech, which is a venture capital firm in, you guessed it, Green Bay. And so we're going to be talking to him about what is Titletown Tech, the importance of venture capital and our startup scene, what some of their portfolio companies are, and what they look for with their portfolio companies when they're making decisions on who to invest in. And so I'm really looking forward to talking to Craig Dickman. And that's going to be coming up at noon. And then at 12:30, we're talking to Quentin Claiborne, who is a senior research director at the Institute for Reforming Government and has been working in education reform, I think, basically his entire career when I looked up his LinkedIn and he's also from Wisconsin Rapids.
Oh, cool.
So we'll do a little shout out to I don't know if he was, he did tell me. I can't remember what high school he went to, but shout out to Wisconsin Rapids. But Quentin will be here, and we're going to talk about education reform, basically, and where Wisconsin's at. And I think sometimes the partisan divide that happens and gets in the way, arguably, as far as trying to move things forward and improve Wisconsin's state of education. And so that's coming up at 12:30. But for now, we're going to do a quiz.
All right.
Do the brew quiz for this week. Let's see how closely we were paying attention, Jane. All right. Number one, which company just became the first European firm ever to exceed a 500 billion market valuation? A, SAP, B, Siemens, C, L'Oreal, D, LVMH, which is Louis Vuitton.
And that's the one I'm going with.
Yeah, me too. All right. Number two, which media figure did not get fired from? Which media figure did not get fired from or say they were leaving their current post this week? Did not. A, Don Lemon, B, Nate Silver, C, Wolf Blitzer, D, Tucker Carlson.
Oh, I think it's Wolfie.
It is Wolfie. That one we do not need to wait for the reveal. I guess maybe the surprise one for people if they didn't hear. It was not as much of a splash, but Nate Silver is leaving because basically I think...
Who is he working for?
Well, he started 538.
Right.
And I think he was working for ABC.
Okay.
And so they were either investors or owned 538. 3, GM plans to discontinue which vehicle this year? A, the Chevy Bolt, B, GMC Savannah, C, Chevy Malibu, D, Cadillac Escalade.
Boy, I have no idea. Give me them again, please.
Chevy Bolt, GMC Savannah. I don't know if I'm saying that right. C, Chevy Malibu, D, Cadillac Escalade.
I'll go with the Savannah.
I'm going with Chevy Bolt.
Okay.
Mostly because I know that's true.
Oh, well, there you go.
For which potential acquisition has been blocked by UK regulators? British Airways and EasyJet, Microsoft and Activision Blizzard, C, Pfizer and Segan, D, Qatari Sheikh Jasmine bin Hamad. Yes. Qatari Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani, Manchester United.
Oh, wow. That's quite a mouthful.
So there's a soccer team and who's buying them. I butchered that. I am sorry. But I'm going to go with Microsoft and Activision Blizzard.
And I'm going to go with the soccer club.
Oh, okay. All right. Last one. Ed Sheeran went to court this week to address accusations that his song Thinking Out Loud plagiarizes which 1970s hit? Stairway to Heaven, Born to Run, Let's Get It On, Superstition.
Let's get it on.
All right. How you feeling?
I think I'm going to do half and half. I'm not entirely confident.
I think we this was a joint effort, but we got 5 out of 5.
We
together.
Hey.
All right. So yes, LVMH became the first European company with a $500 billion market cap. So
and I'm pretty sure that's the company that Selma Hayek's husband runs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought that was Does he run? He's not like the family. I feel like that was one of those companies I once read about where like all these offspring, like all the siblings of the founder are running different divisions, and it's like potentially could be a succession type situation as far as who will eventually take over. But I also don't know who Selma Hayek's husband is.
François-Henri Pinault.
Okay.
A French businessman, CEO of Kering and president of Groupe Artemé. So maybe he is not the head of LVMH.
Irregardless. So yes, so that is number one. Then Wolf Blitzer did not announce a departure from CNN this week. GM plans to discontinue the Chevy Bolt. UK regulators have blocked the Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal.
Okay.
And Sheeran is accused of plagiarizing Let's Get It On, which I have to listen to those songs next to each other. I was reading a little bit about this, and basically there's like a 4-chord progression that's what the suit is pending on, is basically, is these 4 chords, is it plagiarizing? And I think Ed Sheeran's argument is basically there's a lot of songs you could find this 4-chord progression in, and so
there's only so many notes.
I mean, that's the truth. When you lay over pop songs over each other, a lot of them sound the same.
Absolutely.
So should be interesting to see where that goes. But yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna take another break. But if you want to win the other set of Brewers tickets
for tonight
at 7:10, we will do that in the next hour. So stay tuned for that. And if you can't go to the game, you can always listen to the game on Civic Media's flagship brew stations, WISS, Oshkosh Air Support, as well as WRCE, News from the Center in Richland Center. But stay tuned through the top of the hour news. We'll be back with Craig Dickman from Titletown Tech. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Like it's